No one saw this coming. Not Elon Musk, not Wall Street, not the trillion-dollar electric vehicle industry, but somewhere deep inside Toyota's secretive R&D labs, it just happened. Something that wasn't supposed to leak, something that could wipe out the very foundation of EV dominance overnight. There was no press conference, no flashy reveal, just a quiet demonstration behind closed doors in Japan of a single prototype with no battery, no gasoline, and no hydrogen tank, just water. Within 48 hours, the shockwave had already begun with $17 billion in EV stock value gone. Tesla staggered, Rivian plunged, and Panasonic went red because what Toyota's CEO allegedly unveiled isn't just a new engine, it's a direct threat to everything the electric revolution was built on. Using rainwater, tap water, or even seawater, the car doesn't store hydrogen. It makes it on the fly as it drives. There are no rare earths, no superchargers, and no lithium. Just a steady chemical reaction that rewrites every rule. Sources inside the room described the moment as surreal. One executive stood in stunned silence while another broke decades of protocol and applauded for 6 minutes straight. For Japan's famously stoic boardrooms, that's not excitement, that's a seismic event. If this tech is real, and early leaks say it is, then the future doesn't belong to batteries, it belongs to water. So before this gets buried or lobbyists scramble to shut it down, stay with us, because what you're about to hear may be the beginning of the end for electric cars. Forget everything you thought you knew about hydrogen. This isn't the Mirai 2.0. That car used fuel cells, a separate tank, and complex pressurization. It was clean, but expensive and limited by infrastructure. This new engine isn't that. This is combustion. Yes, to gain Shin. Toyota has figured out how to burn hydrogen directly inside an internal combustion engine using a modified chamber that can handle temperatures above 2000 degrees C. The result is a roaring high-performance engine that produces only one byproduct, steam. But here's the truly radical part. The engine doesn't store hydrogen, it makes it. Using a proprietary nanocatalyst and a piezoelectric separation system, the vehicle extracts hydrogen atoms from water molecules in real time. That's right. While driving, you pour in water and the car splits the H2O on demand, burns the hydrogen, and exhausts nothing but mist. How much water does it use? Around 5 liters per 100 kilometers. There are no battery fires, no grid overload, and no rare earth metals, just water. Toyota says that includes salt water. There's no need for ultra-pure lab fluid. You could theoretically refill from a rain barrel or a river. So why haven't we heard about this until now? Because this engine is not new. In fact, Toyota started building it 17 years ago under a top-secret program called Project H2X. The idea was sparked in 2008, right as the world's focus shifted to lithium-ion batteries. Toyota was already a leader in hybrids with the Prius, but they saw something others missed, the coming limitations of battery tech, so they began working in silence on a combustion alternative that didn't rely on mining, charging, or cobalt supply chains. By 2012, Project H2X had working prototypes, but suddenly it vanished with no press release, no funeral, and no leaks. Just silence. Insiders claim it wasn't technical failure that killed it, it was pressure from oil companies, lithium lobbyists, and even their own hybrid partners. EV startups were gaining momentum, and a water engine would have threatened too many existing interests, so Toyota shelved it. The engineers were reassigned, many to the more politically palatable Mirai project, as hydrogen fuel cells were seen as safer, more manageable, easier to regulate, and easier to control. But the world changed. In 2024, headlines were filled with EV battery fires, power grids buckling under charging demand, and lithium mining scandals erupting across Africa and South America. Suddenly, Toyota's board saw an opportunity they hadn't seen in a decade. Project H2X was revived in early 2025, and this time they weren't starting from scratch. They dug up the prototypes, 3 vehicles locked away in a temperature-controlled vault in Aichi Prefecture, and updated them with modern components. The new testbed hit the road within 5 months, and what it delivered shocked even the engineers who built it. The vehicle accelerates from 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds, faster than a Prius Prime and on par with many EVs. Its top speed is 180 kilometers per hour with no torque drop on uphill climbs. The range is a jaw, dropping 760 kilometers on a single 50-liter water fill. The refueling process requires no $2 million hydrogen station and no electric charger, just a garden hose. You connect it to the onboard port, flip a switch, and in less than 3 minutes the tank is full. Unlike EVs, you don't need to wait hours for a recharge. There's no range anxiety and no battery degradation over time. Even more shocking, maintenance is simpler than on a gasoline engine. Toyota's engineers claim wear and tear rates are 42% lower than comparable combustion engines because water vapor is the only exhaust. There's no carbon buildup, no soot, and significantly less heat stress on internal components. What started as a buried science project from the 2000s may now be the biggest existential threat the EV industry has ever faced. What happens next could send shockwaves through every car maker, every miner, and every battery startup on Earth because the moment this hits mass production, everything changes. As of this moment, Toyota has already begun internal testing on multiple production-ready variants. No one was ready for the tremor Toyota sent through the electric vehicle world, not even Tesla, because if what's in this engine is real, then the entire EV supply chain, the lifeline of an industry worth over $1 trillion, just got hit by a silent, invisible tsunami. In Seed Tesla's Giga Nevada, panic quietly set in as battery modules, once seen as the core of sustainable transportation, were suddenly obsolete. Lithium was no longer needed. Cobalt and nickel became irrelevant. The $4 billion Panasonic battery plant in Kansas became a ticking time bomb of stranded capital. Executives from Lucid, Rivian, and even legacy titans like GM were reportedly summoned into closed-door meetings less than 24 hours after the prototype leak. The whispers were the same in every boardroom. If this water engine is real, they were done. It wasn't just the materials. It was the infrastructure. Thousands of charging stations across the US, the entire supercharger network, were rendered unnecessary. Recycling startups that bet their futures on dead lithium cells were already slashing staff. They saw the writing on the wall that you don't recycle what you don't use. Just as the industry began to comprehend the technological quake, the numbers started trickling in. This wasn't some sci-fi prototype requiring rare earth elements and platinum-lined fuel cells. The total engine cost was $1,320 less than one-third the cost of a standard EV drivetrain. There were no onboard battery banks and no high-voltage inverters, just a small water tank, a hydrogen separator, a PTO electric converter, and a supercapacitor the size of a lunchbox. The operating cost was a staggering 0.8 cents per mile, which is not a typo. Compare that to the 3.2 cents per mile for most EVs. It was already far cheaper than gas, and the economics just went nuclear. Even factoring in full vehicle production and energy sourcing, the lifetime emissions of this water-powered car came in 78% lower than the greenest Tesla, including manufacturing. Then came the kicker. The break-even point was 1.4 years, which is how fast an average user would recover the entire premium through fuel savings. After that, it's nearly free transportation indefinitely. So what kind of magic was buried inside this thing? At its core is something engineers once called impossible, a piezo electric ultrasonicator. Using high-frequency mechanical vibrations, it splits water molecules instantly into hydrogen and oxygen on demand. Not stored, not compressed, and not explosive. The hydrogen feeds a small combustion chamber while oxygen is expelled. The energy is buffered not by a lithium-ion pack, but by a dense supercapacitor array that stabilizes current and recharges from the car's own kinetic motion. Cold start was verified at minus 22 degrees C, meaning it works in winter. Emissions lab verification found trace oxygen in water droplets. That's it. There was no NOx, no kotju, and no smog. The tailpipe steam on a cold morning is the only clue that anything is even running. Perhaps most critically, there's no hydrogen tank, no compression, and no fire risk. The engine generates what it needs as it drives, like a portable power plant that runs on water and air. So why isn't the world cheering? Because some very powerful people are furious. Within 48 hours of the leak, European Union regulators reportedly issued an internal directive to review all synthetic fuel and alternative hydrogen standards, which translates to finding a way to discredit it. Oil lobbyists in Texas, blindsided by a fuel source that doesn't involve drilling, pipelines, or refining, called the announcement a PR stunt even as they privately began lobbying for emergency fuel tax protections. One U.S. senator allegedly drafted a bill proposing a water usage tax for non-agricultural vehicular consumption. A tax on water, you can't make this up. In China, automotive R&D divisions began pulling archived documents from university partnerships as reverse engineering had already begun. Japan's Ministry of Economy was reportedly warned that intellectual theft is now inevitable. As the news spread, Tesla made a shocking move by suspending all upgrades to the Cybertruck drivetrain. No official reason was given, but insiders claim it's because Musk himself wants to understand the water engine before committing to another round of electric innovation, because if even 60% of this is real, it changes everything. Toyota isn't just threatening the EV market, it's threatening the geopolitical foundation of the energy economy. No lithium, no rare earths, and no grid dependence, just water. That one word is enough to cause panic across industries, continents, and ideologies because water isn't controlled. It can't be privatized and it can't be fracked. When technology makes it the fuel source of the future, you don't just disrupt energy, you rewrite civilization. And the real battle is only just beginning. The first casualty is money. The financial quake didn't stop at Silicon Valley. Just hours after Toyota's secret was exposed, oil markets hemorrhaged value. Saudi Aramco, the crown jewel of petroleum dominance, lost a staggering $41 billion in market capitalization in a single trading day. That's not a dip, that's a rupture. Across the globe, Norway's trillion-dollar sovereign wealth fund hit the brakes on its aggressive lithium mining investments. For years, they'd banked on EVs to be the future, but overnight their crystal ball cracked as they began unloading shares in lithium startups before the media could even spin the story. Meanwhile, India quietly but deliberately began signaling interest in becoming a water engine manufacturing hub by 2026. Leaked meeting memos suggest top officials met with Toyota's Asia Pacific division barely 48 hours after the leak, eyeing rural refueling infrastructure and military adaptation in the Himalayas. The Japanese yen, long battered by inflation, surged back to life as Toyota's stock exploded 18.4% in one trading session, the biggest single-day gain in the company's modern history. In a twist no analyst had forecast, Russia entered the chat. Kremlin insiders allegedly greenlit a fast-track program to adapt the engine for use in tanks, logistics trucks, and even submarine drone prototypes. But just as the world scrambled to catch up, more secrets leaked, and this time it wasn't from Toyota. In early June, anonymous engineers rumored to be part of a fired subcontractor team posted full schematics of the PZO catalytic hydrogen separator on a whistleblower forum. Within hours, the documents had been downloaded over 4 million times. Japan's patent office confirmed the technology had been briefly registered in 2023 and then mysteriously withdrawn, raising suspicion that Toyota was forced into silence until now. Internal memos from research divisions in Nagoya and Tsukuba revealed something even more audacious. Toyota had already deployed 10 test fleets across 3 continents under dummy companies. One prototype was field tested in rural Kenya on muddy roads with extreme heat and elevation shifts. The result was zero performance degradation. New lab reports confirm that even in sealed environments like tunnels or underground garages, the engine's emissions remain non-toxic, just water vapor and trace oxygen, with no carbon dioxide, no nitrogen oxides, no soot, and not even residual hydrogen. It was so clean you could technically breathe the exhaust. But not everything is perfect, and now the red flags are starting to ripple through the system. Water could become the new oil. In regions already battling drought like California or parts of sub-Saharan Africa, experts warn that localized fuel demand could overwhelm municipal supplies. We're entering uncharted territory where geopolitical tensions could emerge over who gets to fuel their cars and with whose water. That's not all. The engine's core system requires corrosion-resistant alloys, bumping up initial manufacturing costs by an estimated 15%. Some metals used aren't rare, but they are niche, and the global supply chain isn't ready. Insurance agencies are reportedly baffled. One source claims that underwriters can't categorize the engine under EV, ICE, or even hydrogen fuel cell classes, making it a regulatory no-man's land. Municipal governments may even begin to cap daily water usage for public fueling stations to avoid pressure on their grids. If that happens, EV infrastructure upgrades like chargers, substations, and battery backups could be halted permanently. Why build for a powertrain that just got leapfrogged by water and sound waves? The storm isn't over, in fact, it's just starting. Toyota is expected to go fully public with the water engine at the next Tokyo Auto Show. Not as a concept, but with full-scale production timelines. Initial rollout models may appear in Asia and the Middle East first, where EV adoption lagged due to infrastructure issues. Now, that delay looks prophetic. As for Elon Musk, so far there has been silence. No tweet, no meme, and no press conference. The man who's commented on every world event from Dogecoin to deep state conspiracies hasn't said a word about the engine that could render Tesla's entire mission obsolete. Insiders say Cybertruck production upgrades were quietly frozen pending review, but other automakers aren't waiting. Leaks from Detroit and Seoul suggest that emergency meetings are already underway, with some companies requesting government bailouts just to pivot toward water-based propulsion. As for Toyota, they're not slowing down. A roadmap was quietly submitted to the Japanese Ministry of Economy last week with the target of 1 million water engines per year by 2027. This isn't just the end of electric as we know it, it's the reset button for the entire global auto industry. From Detroit to Dubai, from charging cables to cobalt mines, everything is now hanging by a thread. The revolution won't be televised, it will be unleashed with the turn of a key and a splash of water. If this is just the beginning, you won't want to miss what comes next.